for loop, for loop. Okay, can you tell? So there are some specialities are there for the for loop. The most commonly used loop in Java, our hand is always going for wherever loop is required, for I don't know the reason. Okay, the most commonly used loop in Java is for loop only. Are you getting? Even in the last classes somewhere I covered, for loop is the best choice if we know number of iterations in advance. Sir, exactly 10 times loop body required to execute, or exactly 20 times loop body required to execute, then for loop is the best choice. Correct, right? Okay, just observe the syntax well first. Here I am taking for int I is equal to 0, I is less than 10, I plus plus. For int I is equal to 0, I is less than 10, I plus plus. System dot out dot println of hello, like I am taking hello like this I am taking. Can you tell hello will be printed how many times? How many times? 10 times. Sir, if the loop body exactly 10 times I have to execute, or exactly 20 times I want to execute, then for loop is the best choice. Sir, can you tell what is this section? Initialization section. And what about this one? Can you spell out? What is this one? Condition check or conditional check. And what is this one? Increment or decrement section. And what is this one? Loop body or action loop body, right? Can you tell first which one will be executed? First which one will be executed? Initialization section. After that, what is the next one? Conditional check. Sir, correct. Conditional check is the second. Sir, it is the true. If it is the true, then which one? Loop body is the third. Loop body. After that, what is the next term? Increment or decrement section. Increment or decrement. After that, what is the next one? Conditional check. After that, what is the next one? Loop body. And then what is the next term? Increment or decrement. And then what is the next term? Loop body. Are you getting? So increment, conditional check, like from here, so this one is going to be there. From here, this one will be there. Next up, from this, automatically loop body will be executed. Correct or not? Okay, this is. So in for loop life cycle, initialization section will be executed how many times? Only once. Correct or not? Now, can you please cross check? Yes, I say this point well. Sir, for what is the first part? What is the first one? Initialization section. Sir, first part is initialization section. What is the second one? Condition check or conditional check. What is the third one? Increment or decrement section. Increment or decrement section. Now within that, what there? Loop body is there. Loop body. Now can you tell which one will be executed first? Sir, first initialization section. And then what is the next one? Conditional check. After that, what? Loop body. And then increment or decrement. And then what is the next? Condition check. If it is the true, once again loop body. After loop body, increment or decrement is nothing but 7. After that, conditional check. After the loop body. Are you getting? Now, do you know this cycle by default will be repeated again. This cycle is nothing but will come. From here is nothing but like this. I hope now what is the syntax? How many important parts are there? What is the flow is nothing but is clear for all of you. Are you able to understand that syntactical thing? First add. Keep subverting for loop. Under that add the first point. For loop is the most commonly used loop. For loop is the most commonly used loop. For loop is the most commonly used loop in Java. For loop is the most commonly used loop in Java. In Java, for loop is the most commonly used loop in Java. Second point. If we know number of iterations in advance, if we know number of iterations in advance, if we know number of iterations in advance, then if we know number of iterations in advance, then for loop is the best choice. If we know number of iterations in advance, then for loop is the best choice. For loop is the best choice. For loop is the best choice. Are you getting? So when we should go for loop, if we know number of iterations in advance, then for loop is the best choice, right? Next, add syntax. Take this part. Syntax for initialization section. Next, conditional check is the second. Third one, increment or decrement section. Decrement section, loop body. Now observe the numbers also sequence. First initialization section will be executed and then conditional check. After that, increment or decrement section followed by loop body. Initialization section, conditional check, increment, decrement, loop body, like the numbers. Completed, right? Any pre-increment or post-increment, any increment you can take, no problem. Completed, right? Okay. Now here observe this point well. Sir, here initialization section, of course, first point, just observe curly braces. Can I spell out? Curly braces mandatory or optional? Curly braces are optional. Without curly braces, how many statements we can take under for loop? Only one statement, which should not be declarative statement, okay? So curly braces are optional. Without curly braces, we can take only one statement, which should not be declarative statement. We know this point well, okay? Just still let me add some examples, right? We know not required to keep much explanation, but still here see, for int I is equal to 0, here some boolean condition or some true. Next, I plus plus is nothing but again I don't want to take curly brace. SOP of hello like I'm taking. Can you tell is it valid or not? Yes, because SOP statement I'm taking. For int I is equal to 0, I is less than 10 anyway, or otherwise some false I'm taking. I plus plus, yeah, just a semicolon I'm taking. Valid or invalid? This one is nothing but 1 minute. 1 minute here. Just let me take I is less than 10. Okay, semicolon. Valid or not? Valid. Because semicolon is a valid Java statement. No problem at all. Itself is valid, right? Okay. Now let me take for int I is equal to 0. I is lesser than 10 I plus plus, or int I is equal to 0. I is less than 10 I plus plus. Here I am taking int x is equal to 10. Valid or invalid? This one is nothing but invalid, right? Sir, without the curly braces, only one statement we can take, which should not be declarative statement. First add. Curly braces are optional. Curly braces are optional. Curly braces are optional. And without curly braces, we can take only one statement. Without curly braces, we can take only one statement. Under for loop. We can take only one statement under for loop. Under for loop, comma, which should not be declarative statement. Declarative statement. Okay, that's all. Take all. Take these examples anyway. For int I is equal to 0, semicolon true I plus plus, SOP of hello. Next up, for int I is equal to 0, I is lesser than 10, I plus plus, like. Next up, for int I is equal to 0, I is less than 10, I plus plus, int x is equal to 10 itself is invalid. Completed, I hope. Okay, this is now. So keep subheading initialization section. Initialization section. Initialization section. Initialization section. Okay. Here just observe the points well. Initialization section. Here legend this terminology well. Sir, here I am taking in the initialization section. There is this part, right? This one is initialization section. I is lesser than 10, I plus plus, like. Okay, anyway, this one. Can you tell here this part will be executed how many times? Only once. Only once. This part will be executed only once in for loop life cycle, right? Next point here, see. Sir, usually what activity we can do? We can declare and initialize local variables of for loop. Sir, to execute for loop, one counter variable is required. Where you can declare this counter variable is anathema here. We can declare here. We can declare and initialize local variables of the for loop here. Are you getting right? Now my requirement is how many variables we declared here? Only one variable. Can I declare multiple variables or not? Why not? Can I declare multiple variables or not? Yes. Here see, int I is equal to 0, comma j is equal to 0. Valid or not? Yes, valid. We can declare multiple variables, no problem at all. Now my question is, listen, I want to declare two variables. I want to declare two variables, but one variable is of int type, the other variable is of string type. Are you getting? In the initialization part, I want to declare two variables. One variable is of int type, second variable is of string type. Is it possible or not? Sir, can I take int I is equal to 0, comma string s is equal to Durga? Is it valid or invalid? Invalid. Compiler will give left and right because int I is equal to 0, string s. Compulsory this here we have to take one semicolon. If I can take semicolon, this one will become conditional check. Are you getting? So in the initialization section, I want to declare two variables. One is int type, the other one is what? String type. Is it possible or not? Okay, make sure here we can declare any number of variable, but should be of the same type. Should be of the same type. By mistake, if you are taking is nothing but different type, not at all possible. Okay, that's why this one is what? Invalid. Now int I is equal to 0. Int I is equal to 0, comma int j is equal to 0. This one is also invalid because int I is equal to 0. You want to specify type once again, compulsory here what we have to take? Semicolon. If I can take semicolon, second one is treated as what? Conditional check. That's why this one is also invalid. Are you able to understand what is initialization section? In the initialization section will be executed only once in the loop life cycle. Second one, here we can declare any number of variables, but all these variables should be same type. That is, multiple data type variables it is impossible to declare in initialization section. Clear, right? Okay, add. This part will be executed. This part will be executed. This part will be executed only once. This part will be executed only once. This part will be executed only once in loop life cycle. This part will be executed only once in loop life cycle. Loop life cycle. Next, here, second point, here we can declare, and initialize. Here we can declare and initialize. Local variables. Here we can declare and initialize local variables of for loop. Here we can declare and initialize local variables of for loop. Next, third point. Here we can declare any number of variables. Any number of variables, but should be of the same type. By mistake, if we are trying to declare different data type variables, then we will get by mistake, if you are trying to declare different data type variables, then we will get compile time error. Like example here, int I is equal to 0, comma j is equal to 0, valid. Next, int I is equal to 0, comma string s is equal to Durga. Int I is equal to 0, comma string s is equal to Durga. So this one is invalid. So the last one is also invalid. Last one itself is invalid. Completed, right? Okay. So make sure you people should be aware. Next, related to initialization section, one more loophole is there. Let me explain. Sir, here I am taking, listen this point well. Sir, int I is equal to 0. I am taking for loop system.out.println. Okay, listen, system.out.println. Hello boss, you are sleeping. Hello boss, yes sir. Hey. Hello boss, you are sleeping. Next, I is less than 3, I plus plus. I is less than 3, I plus plus. System.out.println. Okay. No boss, you only sleeping. No boss, you only sleeping. Like this I am taking. Can you tell, is it valid or invalid? Have you observed? So, I am asking, are you sleeping or not? No. Just observe the syntax. Is it valid or not? Have you observed? In the initialization section, what thing I took? SOP statement. In the initialization section, SOP statement I am taking. SOP, and then I is less than 3, I plus plus. SOP of no boss, you only sleeping, like is nothing but like we are taking. Now the important conclusion, make sure a bit very carefully about this terminology, right? Is it valid or not? Valid. In the initialization section, we can take any valid Java statement including SOP, no problem at all. How it is going to execute? Now observe, first which will be executed, I is a 0 loop body. Initialization section. In the initialization section, what it's going to do? Execute. Hello boss, you are sleeping. Hello boss, you are sleeping. Now I is less than 3, satisfied or not? 0 less than 3, satisfied. No boss, you only sleeping. No boss, you only sleeping. Next, I value will become 1. 1 is less than 3. Satisfied or not? Yes. So once again, now boss, you only sleeping. Now boss, you only sleeping. Next I value will become 2. 2 is less than 3. Satisfied. Once again, now boss, you only sleeping. Then I value will become what? 3. 3 is less than 3. Not satisfied. That's all. This is the output by default we are going to get. So the conclusion is, in the initialization section, we can take any valid Java statement, including SOP statement also, no problem at all. Let me execute this code. Some people may have big doubts or how it is like. Here, let me take this one. Here, int I is equal to 0. Okay. For can you tell what is that one? SOP of, okay, 1 minute on. Sir, SOP of, can you spell out? Hello, you are sleeping. Hello, you are sleeping, like. So I is less than 3. Next one after that I plus plus. Next system.out.println SOP of, what is the answer? No boss, you only sleeping. Now boss, you only sleeping is nothing but like. Now here end of the for loop. That's all. Same SOP statement, right? Now observe, the code compiles fine, no syntactical mistake. Let me run. What is the output by default we are getting? Hello, you are sleeping. No boss, you only sleeping. No boss, you only sleeping, like 3 times, right? Now the important conclusion, what you people should aware. In the initialization section, we can take any valid Java statement, including SOP statement, no problem at all. Are you getting that? Okay, this is add. In the initialization section, we can take any valid Java statement. Any valid Java statement, including SOP, okay. Take this example anyway. Int I is equal to 0 for SOP of hello boss, you are sleeping. I is less than 3, I plus plus, like. So we can take any valid Java statement, including SOP, no problem at all. Any statement we can take itself is valid. Which one? Return, I don't think. Return or break, these kind of thing. Return inside a method, maybe a chance possible. Return, maybe a chance possible. So there only it is going to be stopped. Which one? Return means what? Within a method we have to take. Are you getting? Then that method execution will be stopped. One thing. But maybe a chance. If I can take return, the remaining statements will become unreachable. Are you getting? Maybe a chance, unreachable. Then maybe a chance of compile time error. So check that. If I can take return, break, what will happen like? Because after return, we can't take any statement directly. Or after break, we can't write any statement directly. Like that, rules are going to be dominated, right? Can you repeat? Compile time error, right? Where is I? Compile time error. So cannot find the symbol I like. Just actually initialization we have to do here, but I'm placing outside because I want to take SOP statement here. Compile time error. From where this JVM will provide default value only for instance and static variable, but this one is what? Local variable. Completed, right? Okay. Now this is what the initialization section. Now the second one keeps updating conditional check. Sir, here legend conditional check here for int I is equal to 0 I is less than 3 I plus plus. Now here observe. Sir, here this is the conditional check. Okay. Here the point is, sir, here we can take any valid Java expression. Any valid Java expression here we can take, but should be of what type? Boolean type. Sir, you can take, sir, A is less than B and B is greater than 30 or K is less than L. Like, you can take anything, no problem at all, but at the end should be what type? Boolean type. That's what you have to evaluate. So anything you can take, but at the end it should be Boolean type. Point number 1. Second point, sir, this part is the mandatory or not? Simple word you can consider, this part is optional. Sir, if I am not taking anything, then compiler will always place true for us. Are you getting? Make sure, sir, this part is optional. If we are not taking anything, compiler will always place what? True for us, right? Okay, best example here, the last example whatever I took. Can you please cross check here? See this one. Here I am taking int I is equal to 0. For system.out.print, hello boss, you are sleeping. I is less than 3 I took. Just let me remove this part. Remove. I am not taking any Boolean value. So I plus plus, no boss, you only sleeping, and I am trying to print I value. I am trying to print I value, right? Now observe. So first time, what is the I value? 0. And hello boss, you are sleeping. And here true or not? Boolean condition true. Execute body 0. And I value will become what? 1. And this is the true or not? True. Then SOP of no boss, you are sleeping. What is the I value? 1. This cycle by default will be repeated. How many times? Infinite number of times. Is it executing or not? Observe this one. Sir, what is the output? Hello boss, you are sleeping. No boss, you only sleeping. Like, keep on, do body, keep on executing. How many times is nothing but what? Infinite number of times. Are you getting? So that condition is nothing but conditional check is optional. If we are not taking anything, compiler is always going to place what? True for us, right? Is it clear? First add this conditional check under that. Here we can take any value. Here we can take any valid. Here we can take any valid Java expression. Here we can take any valid Java expression, but should be of the type of Boolean. Here we can take any valid Java expression, but should be of the type of Boolean. Is it clear, right? Next, second point. This part is mandatory or optional? This part is optional. And if we are not taking anything, then compiler will always place true. That's all. So this is what conditional check. Third one, keep subverting increment or decrement section. Third, keep subverting increment or decrement section. Very simple. Here see, sir, I am taking for int I is equal to 0. Now one minute. Here see this point well. Sir, int I is equal to 0 for system.out.println of hello semicolon. Next, I is less than 3. And then system.out.println hi I am taking. SOP of hi. Okay. And then what? I plus plus I am taking. Here just see, sir, the initialization section. next conditional check, and this one is nothing but what? Increment or decrement. In the increment or decrement, what thing I am taking? In the increment or decrement, what thing I am taking? SOP statement. Here we can take any valid Java statement including SOP statement, no problem at all. So it's not compulsory you have to take I plus plus, I minus minus, even though we are taking generally, but in the in this part we can take any valid Java statement including what? SOP statement at all. Now can you spell out what the answer we are going to get now? I is at 0. SOP of hello, sir, hello will be printed. Hello printed. Next 0 less than 3, satisfied or not? Satisfied. I value will become 1, and then this high. 1 less than 3, satisfied or not? Yes. So it value will become 2, and then high. 2 less than 3, satisfied. I value will become 3, and high. 3 less than 3, satisfied or not? No. That's why what is the output we are getting? Hello, hi, 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 like 3 times. Is it clear? Just observe this one. Sir, print here, just see this point well. Sir, I am taking 1 minute. Let's keep on executing, right? Okay. Now, sir, hello, I am taking. Next, here I is less than 3, and then I am taking SOP statement here. Just SOP of here, just observe high I am taking. SOP of high. Okay, just this is SOP of high. So here next what is the loop body? I plus plus like. That's all. Hello, I is less than 3, high I plus plus like. Now observe valid, no problem. What is the answer by default we are going to get? Hello, hi, 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 like 3 times, right? Regarding in the increment or decrement section, we can take any valid Java statement including SOP statement, no problem at all. In the increment or decrement section, in the increment or decrement section, we can take any valid Java statement. In the increment or decrement section, we can take any valid Java statement, any valid Java statement including SOP. Any valid Java statement including SOP. Any valid Java statement including SOP. SOP. Okay, that's all. Take this example. Int I is equal to 0 for SOP of hello. I is less than 3. SOP of high. It's I plus plus. The output will become hello, hi, like. So is the output we are going to get. Can I complete it right? Completed, right? Okay. Next down, there is one very important loophole, common point about these three expressions. Let me tell. Sir, here if we consider, have you observed, for int I is equal to 0, I is less than 10, I plus plus. Sir, here see, in the initialization section, anything you can take including SOP. Here any Java expression you can take, but should be of the Boolean type. Here anything you can take including SOP. Is there any dependency between these two? No. Independent statements you can take. Is there any dependency between these two? No. Independent statements you can take, no problem. All 3 parts of for loop are independent of each other. Are you getting? All 3 parts of for loop are optional. We are not required to take anything. Itself is nothing but valid. Yeah, if you want, just observe this one. Sir, I am taking for semicolon. Okay, semicolon. That's all. System.out.println of hello like this I'm taking. Can you tell is it valid or not? Yeah, all three parts of for loop are optional, so that's why independent of each other and optional. So hello will be executed. How many times hello will be printed? Infinite number of times. It's an infinite loop. Similarly for semicolon, like I'm taking, how many times this semicolon will be executed? Infinite number of times. So here, because it's a true execute infinite number of time, but what is the output we will get is nothing but nothing. That's why these are valid and both are what? Infinite loops. Correct or not? Both are infinite loops, right? Okay, at this point, at the point value, all three parts of for loop are independent of each other. All three parts of for loop are independent of each other. All three parts of for loop are independent of each other and optional. All three parts of for loop are independent of each other and optional. Okay, this is take both examples and better to highlight. Both are infinite loops. Next one completed, right? Okay, do you know unreachability is the problem even in the case of for loop also. An unreachability problem is there even for loop also. Just observe this point well. Sir, I am taking for analogy for okay, int I is equal to 0 and true I am taking I plus system.out.println of hello. Next system.out.println of hi. Now here see this one, this is the first one. Next for int I is equal to 0 and false. Directly I am taking false, because any boolean value you can take, no problem at all. SOP of hello. Next SOP of hi I am taking hi for loop. Next for int I is equal to 0 semicolon. Can you tell is it optional or not? Yes, conditional expression is optional. I plus system.out.println of hello and then SOP of hi, like I am taking SOP of hi. Next for int I is equal to 0. Int I is equal to 0. Here int A is equal to 10, B is equal to 20 I am taking, and A is lesser than B, I plus. For int I is equal to 0, A is less than B, I plus. System.out.println of hello. Next system.out.println of hi. Are you getting? Next int A is equal to 10, B is equal to 20. A is equal to 10, B is equal to 20. For int I is equal to 0. Int I is equal to 0. A greater than B, I plus. Okay. System.out.println of hello. Next system.out.println of hi. Okay, make sure you should aware. Okay. Next final int A is equal to 10, B is equal to 20. Final int A is equal to 10, B is equal to 20. for int I is equal to 0, a is lesser than b, I plus plus, system dot out dot println of, hello, next system dot out dot println of hi. Okay, hi. Next final int a is equal to 10, b is equal to 20. Final int a is equal to 10, b is equal to 20 for int I is equal to 0, int I is equal to 0, a greater than b, I plus plus, system dot out dot println of, hello, system dot out dot println of hi. Highlight. Okay, so these are various important cases what we have. How many cases are there? Seven cases. Now you have to decide which are valid and which are invalid. Let me start explaining first one, because you people have clear idea. Can you spell out? First one, is it valid or invalid? Invalid. Why? Because true means what? This one keep on executing. This one will become what? Unreachable statement. Unreachable statement. First one is nothing but like. Sir, why second one valid or invalid? Invalid, because it is false. If it is a false, total loop body will become unreachable. That's why this one is nothing but unreachable statement. Unreachable statement like this one. Are you getting unreachable statement? Next, this one is nothing but what? True or false? This one either true, because if I am not taking anything, compiler is always going to place a true. If it is a true, keep on executing. When this one will get the chance, unreachable statement. Unreachable statement is nothing but like this. Next, is it true or false? Is it true or false? True. But compiler don't know it is the true, because normal variables, right? If normal variable, compiler don't know, compiles. But at runtime, is it true or false? True. That's why what will happen is output hello, like infinite number of times it is going to be printed. Next, sir, here int a is equal to 10, b is equal to 20. Is it true or false? False, but compiler don't know, because it is a normal variables, right? If normal variable, that operation should be happened at runtime only. That's why is it true or false? False. Compiler don't know. Compile at runtime it is a false. That's why simple it is going to execute what? High only. Okay. Same final int. Final. Sir, if both are final, is it true or false? True. Compiler aware it is the true. If it is the true, then what will happen? Is nothing but like, do you know, this statement will become unreachable, because true, keep on executing, this one will become unreachable statement. This one will become unreachable statement, right? Next, sir, final. Compiler aware it is the true or false. So false. Compiler aware it is the false. If it is the false, total loop body will become what? Unreachable. Now this statement will become unreachable statement. Unreachable statement, curly brace itself. Are you able to understand? Only out of all, how many cases are valid? Is nothing but only 2 cases. In all remaining cases, compile time method which are going to get. Is it clear for all of you? Right? Just let me show. Matter of 2 minutes here, see. 1 minute here, see. For what the first one? Can I spell out? What the first one? Int I is equal to 0. Directly I am taking true, and then what? I plus plus, and within that SOP of hello, religion, SOP of hi, like this I am taking, right? And our first example here, see, int I is equal to 0, like. Now observe the code here. Have you observed what the compile time error by default we are going to get here is 1 minute, semicolon, like I am taking here. See, observe unreachable statement, SOP of high will become unreachable, right? Next, here false I am taking. If it is a false, what will happen? You know, curly brace itself is unreachable. Curly brace itself, loop body will become unreachable. Next, int a is equal to 10, comma b is equal to 20. Okay, but before this example, let me remove nothing. I am not taking any conditional check. Is it valid or invalid? Invalid. Okay, same SOP of 5 will become, because compiler is always going to place what? True. That's why unreachable, right? A lesser than b. A and b are normal variables. Yes, compiles fine. What the answer? Hello, 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 like infinite number of times we are going to get. Next, A greater than b. Valid or not? Valid. A greater than b. Valid. What the answer? High. Itself is the answer. Next, final int a lesser than b. Final int a lesser than b. Valid or not? Yes. Final unreachable statement SOP of 5. Next, a greater than b. Valid or not? Yes. Valid. I mean unreachable statement, curly brace open. Is it clear for all of you, right? So take all these 7 cases. Take all. First case onwards. First, take clearly. Unreachability is a big problem in every loop. This problem is there anywhere, right? So I hope you people covered aware all these things, right? Now the next loop what we have to discuss. Keep submitting. Now the next loop. Can you spell out what the next one? For each loop. Next one, for each loop. Now keep submitting. For each loop. For each loop. You know, for each loop also known as, is there any other word for each loop? Yes. For each loop also known as enhanced for loop. For each loop also known as enhanced for loop. So this loop introduced in 1.5 version. Listen. This loop is the best suitable, specially designed loop to retrieve elements of arrays and collections. Sir, array, a group of elements are there, or collection, a group of elements are there. From array and collection, if you want to get objects one by one, then best suitable loop is nothing but for each loop, right? Are you able to understand? For each loop is the best choice, or for each loop is a specially designed loop to retrieve elements of arrays and collections. Okay, this is. I will go for multiple examples anyway. Add for each loop, enhanced for loop. Within first point, introduced in 1.5 version. Introduced in 1.5 version. Next, it is a specially designed loop. It is specially designed loop to retrieve. Specially designed loop to retrieve elements of, specially designed loop to retrieve elements of arrays and collections. Specially designed loop to retrieve elements of arrays and collections. Specially designed loop to retrieve elements of arrays and collections. Okay. Now I will go for multiple examples so that you can aware how for each loop will makes programmer's life easy. Just observe. Sir, I have one. So here just observe example 1. To print elements of one dimensional array. To print elements of one dimensional array. Like I want to print elements of one dimensional array. Let me take one dimensional array. Sir, int array x is equal to, in there x is equal to 10, 20, 30, 40. Sir, I have one int array. I want to print its array elements. So by using normal for loop and by using enhanced for loop, which one is the easy you can aware? Just observe normal for loop. Sir, I want to use normal for loop. And this one, what is this one? Enhanced for loop. Normal for loop, enhanced for loop. Is nothing but like two loops are there. Normal for loop. Can you spell out the code for normal for loop? Not required to keep much explanation. What is the normal for loop? For int I is equal to 0, I is less than x dot length I plus plus system dot out dot println of x of I. Are you getting normal for loop? You won't face any problem with a normal for loop because from our childhood onwards we are already habituated with this. But once you know for each loop, then how much stupid to use this concept is nothing but you will come to know. Sir, can you tell what is x? What is x? X is int array. What x contains? What x contains? X contain int values 10, 20, 30, 40 int values, right? Sir, x contain int values are there. Now for each int value in x I have to print, correct or not? Each int value in x I have to print. Now observe for each int value x1 in x. So why the word for each loop? For each int value x1 in x, can you please print that x1 value? Are you getting? For every int value, for each int value x1 in x, print that. First time, what is the first value? What is the first value? 10. Now once again, next int value. What is the next one? 20, 30, 40 like. Can you tell which loop is easy? For each loop is easy or normal for loop? For each loop is easy. Specially designed loop to retrieve the elements of arrays and collections. Is it clear for all of it? Add example 1. Example 1. To print elements of one dimensional array. To print elements of one dimensional array. To print elements of one dimensional array. One dimensional array. Okay. Take this example anyway. Normal for loop. Take a complete example. Int array. Normal for loop and enhanced for loop. Observe the difference, right? Take clearly. To print elements of one dimensional array, normal for loop and enhanced for loop. Completed, I hope. Clear, right? Take clearly. Next, this is the example 1. Next, example 2. Example 2. Yeah. To print, example 2. To print elements of two-dimensional array. To print elements of two-dimensional array. Elements of two-dimensional array. Okay. Now just observe same example. Just listen this one. Sir, I am taking a two-dimensional array. Enter a two-dimensional array x is equal to, okay, 10, 20, 30. I am taking 10, 20, 30. Next 40, 50, like I am taking. Two-dimensional array 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, like this I am taking. Can you tell what is the base size in this two-dimensional array? What is the base size? 2. Sir, 2, because two one-dimensional arrays are there. In that first element, what is the first element size? 10, 20, 30. First element size 10, 20, 30. Second element size, what is the second element size? 40, 50. Second element size 40, 50, like we have. Now listen a bit carefully. Sir, normal for loop, how we can print? You aware, not required to keep much explanation. Now can you spell out what is the code? Normal for loop. For int I is equal to 0. Normal for loop, I is less than x dot length I plus plus. What next? For int j is equal to 0. J is equal to 0. J is less than x of I dot length j plus plus. System dot out dot println x of I followed by what? J. Is nothing but x of I followed by j. Is nothing but like I am taking. Now it's a normal loop. We already habitualized with that. So this code anyway easily we can able to write. But for each loop, how much easy you can expect. Sir, here what is x? X is two-dimensional array. Two-dimensional array contain one-dimensional arrays. Correct or not? So one-dimensional array contain int values. Correct or not? Now in every one-dimensional array present inside x, every int value, each int value I have to print. Correct or not? Now can you spell out for each one-dimensional array x1 in x. For each one-dimensional array x1 in x. Next for each int value, x2 in x1. Sir, for each one-dimensional array x1 in x. In the for each int value x2 in x1 is nothing but like system dot out dot println of x2. Are you getting that? Okay, this. So which loop is easy? Normal for loop or for each loop? For each loop, it is a specially designed loop to retrieve elements of arrays and collection. That's why wherever collection, highly recommended to go for each loop. Don't use a normal traditional for loop, right? Okay, take this example. Take clearly. Normal for loop and for each loop. Normal for loop and for each loop, like completed. print elements of two-dimensional array. What is the option we have? Clear, right? This is the example 2 we have. Normal for loop, enhanced for loop. Completed, right? Next one. Example 3. Compulsory you have to take diagram also. You should take diagram also so that you can aware. Clear, I hope. Next, example 3. To print elements of three-dimensional array. Elements of three-dimensional array. Let me go for directly for each loop. I don't want to go for normal for loop because unnecessary it is a waste. Now listen. I have a three-dimensional array is there. X in that here size 2, in that 10, 20, okay, 30, 40, here 50, 60, 70 and 80, 90. This is my three-dimensional array. I want to print the elements of this array by using for each loop. Now observe, sir, what is X? X is three-dimensional array. X contains two-dimensional arrays. Sir, first two-dimension, second two-dimension. Next, every two-dimensional array contains one-dimensional arrays. Are you getting? In every one-dimensional array, into values are there. Are you getting? Now observe. For each two-dimensional array in X. Next, for each one-dimensional array in that two-dimension, every int value in that one dimension, I have to print. Can you spell out what is the code for this? What is the code? For each two-dimensional array x1 in X. For each two-dimensional array x1 in X. What is the next one? For in this x1, for each one-dimensional array x2 in x1. Can I spell out? For each one-dimensional array x2 in x1. Next, in this x2, for each int value x3 in x2. For each int value x3, system.out.println of x3. That's all. So have you observed? Assume if for each loop is not there, but using normal for loop if we require to print, then our life will become very horrible, I am sure. Okay, teacher, take this example. Normal for loop, for each loop, observe. Observe the point well. Take clearly. How to print elements of three-dimensional array by using for each loop. This is the new loop came in the 1.5 version. So enhanced for loop. For loop is enhanced. Completed, I hope. Compulsory you have to take diagram also. I hope is clear, right? Yes, boss. Okay. Now I have one big doubt. Sir, normal for loop and for each loop. Which is the best choice? For each loop or normal for loop? For each loop is the best choice. Don't change your answer. Okay? Don't change. Okay? Now, I have one requirement is there. Sir, my requirement is for int I is equal to 0, I is less than 10, I plus plus, system dot out dot println of hello. Hello like this. Can you please write an equivalent for each loop for this? Can you please write an equivalent for each loop? Sir, hello will be printed how many times? 10 times. 10 times. Can you please write equivalent for each loop? Just now you told for each loop is the best. Can you please write equivalent for each loop? For each int I colon 10, I is equal to 1 colon 10. How I can write an equivalent for each loop? How we can write an equivalent for each loop directly for this? Simple, what you should aware. Simple, sir, not possible. We can't write for direct for each loop for this. What the reason is? For each loop is the best choice for retrieving elements of arrays and collection. But its limitation is, it is applicable only for arrays and collection. Sir, I am not having array, I am not having collection. Can I use for each loop? No chance at all. So are you getting? For each loop, limitation is, it is applicable only for arrays and collections. It is not a general purpose loop. Is it clear for all of you? Right? Now observe, simple word, we can't write an equivalent for each loop directly is nothing but no such type of possibility, right? Is it clear at this point? For each loop is the best choice. For each loop is the best choice. For each loop is the best choice to retrieve elements of arrays and collections. For each loop is the best choice to retrieve elements of arrays and collections. To retrieve elements of arrays and collections. To retrieve elements of arrays and collections. But its a limitation is, it is applicable. But its limitation is, it is applicable only for arrays and collections. But its limitation is, it's applicable only for arrays and collections. And it is not a general purpose loop. It's not a general purpose loop. Okay, this is add example for int I is equal to 0. For int I is equal to 0, I is less than 10, I plus plus. For int I is equal to 0, I is less than 10, I plus plus. SOP of hello. I is equal to 0, I is less than 10, I plus plus, SOP of hello. Hello like. Next add. We can't write an equivalent for each loop directly. We can't write an equivalent for each loop directly. Okay. So one more limitation Let me explain that also, so that we can finish this for each loop mostly. Okay, now listen. Sir, I have one int array is there. Int array x is equal to 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 is there. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Sir, for here observe, for int I is equal to x dot length minus 1. Int I is equal to x dot length minus 1. I greater than or equal to 0, I minus minus. For int I is equal to x dot length minus 1. So what is the x value? X dot length 5. 5 minus 1 is nothing but 4. I is equal to 4. I is greater than or equal to 0. I minus minus. System dot out dot println of x of I. Can you tell what is the answer by default we will get in this case? What is the answer? Oh, first time 4 greater than or equal to 0. Print x of 4. X of 4 is nothing but what? 50, 40, 30, 20, 10 like. 20, 10 like. So, we can, we remember, we can write for each loop to print array elements in reverse order. Sir, in reverse order I want to print. Can you please write an equivalent for each loop for this? An equivalent for each loop for this? No way. We can't write an equivalent for each loop directly. Have you observed? We can't write an equivalent for each loop. An equivalent for each loop directly. For each loop directly for this, right? Are you getting? That's why by using normal for loop, we can print array elements either in original order or in reverse order. But by using for each loop, we can print array elements only by using original order, not in reverse order, right? Clear for all of you, right? Add. By using normal for loop, we can print array elements. By using normal for loop, we can print array elements. We can print array elements either in original order, either in original order or in reverse order, either in original order or in reverse order, reverse order. Next paragraph. But by using for each loop, we can print array elements. We can print array elements only in original order, but not in reverse order. Only in original order, but not in reverse order. But not in reverse order. That's all. Clear for all of you, right? Okay. Take this example anyway. Take this one. Int array x is equal to 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Next up, for int I is equal to x dot length minus 1. X dot length minus 1, I is greater than or equal to 0. I minus minus SOP of x of I. So the output by default you are going to get 50, 40, 30, 20, 10. But we can't write an equivalent for each loop. We can't write an equivalent for each loop. We can't write an equivalent for each loop directly. Get that comment. That's all. So these are few conclusions about for each loop, right? The next thing, just observe related to for each loop. There is one very important, I mean for interview room sake, there is one very important topic, let me talk. So keep subheading iterable interface. Keep subheading iterable. So related to for each loop, there is one internal concept is there named with iterable. Compulsory you people should aware clearly, right? Iterable. It is not a new concept related to for each loop only. Okay, now just observe. Sir, I am taking what is the syntax of for each loop. For each item x in target. For each item x in target, like correct or not? For every element x in this array, for every element x in this collection, okay, this target element can be either array or collection. Correct or not? The target element in for each loop can be either array or collection. The target element, whatever we are using, the target element whatever we are using in the for each loop should be iterable object. Should be iterable object. The target element. So in the for each loop should be iterable object. Sir, when we say that an object is said to be iterable, when we say that an object is said to be iterable, if and only if the corresponding class implements java.lang.iterable interface. Are you getting right? If and only if the corresponding class implements what? Java.lang.iterable interface. Okay. Being a programmer, we should aware this point. Being a programmer, we should aware this point. We are not required to know anything, because the reason is all array related classes already implements iterable. Every collection implemented class already implements iterable. Being a programmer, we have to aware this point. We are not responsible to do anything. Yeah. So best example for him. Sir, collection. Which one acts as a root for collection framework? Collection is the root interface. Correct or not? Collection is the root. Under collection, we have list is there. Next set is there. And then what? Queue concept is there. List, set, queue concept is there. Now, this collection from the 1.5 version onwards, this collection is the child interface of iterable. Collection is the child interface of iterable, right? Organic collection itself is the child interface of iterable. If collection is the child interface of iterable, every collection implemented classes by default implements iterable or not? Yes, all collection classes already iterable. All array classes already iterable. That's why being a programmer, we are not required to do anything, just we should aware the point, right? Is it clear for all of you? So what is iterable? Okay, the target element in for each loop should be iterable object. Okay, they say all arrays, and when we say that an object is said to be iterable, if and only if the corresponding class implements what? Java.lang.iterable interface, right? Now, do you know this interface came in which version? In which version of Java for each loop came? 1.5. Automatically, iterable came in which version? 1.5 version. Iterable contain how many methods? It contain only one method. It contain how many methods? Only one method. What is that method? Is Iterator method. Iterator method. Beyond that, nothing. Sir, it contains only one method, Iterator method. Now, let me repeat once again. Can you please talk about iterable? Maybe a chance to ask in the interview room. Just you people should be aware the target element in for each loop should be iterable object. An object is said to be iterable if and only if corresponding class implements what? Java.lang.iterable interface. So iterable interface came in which version? 1.5 version. Iterable interface contain how many methods? Only one method, iterator method. Okay, this is. Next, all array classes, all collection related classes already implements iterable. Being a programmer, we should aware this point. We are not required to do anything. Is it clear for all of you? Maybe a chance to ask the question like, what is the difference between iterable and iterator? Have you observed the similarity in the words? Then I will give you a small tabular from the differences. Let us add iterable interface. Under that, just add the first take this syntax. Take only this syntax. Don't take any other. For each item x colon target, for each item x colon target, target. So this target can be what? Array or collection. Target can be array or collection. And this target is what type? Iterable object. Only take this one. Array or collection. Target can be iterable object. Object. Completed, right? Okay. Now add the theory. The target element. The target element in for each loop should be. The target element in for each loop should be. The target element in for each loop should be iterable object. The target element in for each loop should be iterable object. The target element in for each loop should be iterable object. Next up. An object is said to be. An object is said to be iterable. An object is said to be iterable if and only if. An object is said to be iterable if and only if corresponding class implements. If and only if corresponding class implements. Java.lang.iterable interface. Java.lang.iterable interface. Okay, next up. Iterable interface present in 1 minute. Iterable interface introduced in. Iterable interface introduced in which version? Introduced in 1.5 version. Introduced in 1.5 version. And it contains only one method. Only one method. What is that method? Iterator. And it contains only one method, iterator. Okay, better to take complete signature. Public iterator is the return type. Iterator is the method. Public iterator. Public iterator. Iterator method name, return type is what? Iterator. Next point. Add. So all array related classes and collection implemented classes and collection implemented classes already implement iterable interface. Already implemented iterable interface. Being a programmer, we are not required. Being a programmer, we are not required to do anything. Just we should aware the point. That's all. Just we should aware the point. Okay, that's all. So this is about iterable. Sir, maybe a chance to ask maximum. There's a possibility to ask, what is the difference between iterator and the iterable? Are getting maybe a chance to ask, because similarity in the words. So keep subverting differences between iterator and the iterable. Differences between iterator and the iterable. iterable. Okay. Now iterator, better to take iterable. Iterator and iterable. Iterator and iterable. Okay, just observe. Now, do you know this concept related to iterator, this concept related to, it is related to, don't write, related to collections, correct or not? Now we can, iterator concept is related to collections, but just now we covered, what about iterable, Anna? It is related to, it is related to for each loop. It is related to for each loop. So related to collections, related to for each loop. Okay. Second point. Okay, it's related to collections and for each loop. Now the second, do you know for which purpose we can use iterator? Sir, I have collection is there. Can you spell out what is a collection? Collection is nothing but what? A group of objects. A group of object is a collection. Sir, I want to get objects one by one from the collection. If you want to get objects one by one from the collection, then cursor is required. Regarding cursor concept is required. That cursor itself is nothing but iterator, enumeration, list iterator, like three concepts are there. Okay, this is. Now, sir, I want to get these objects one by one. Then we should go for what? Iterator is nothing but like we can use to retrieve. We can use to retrieve the elements of collection. We can use to retrieve elements of collection one by one. Are you getting? One by one. If you want to get the objects one by one, then we should go for what? Iterator concept. Sir, what about iterable? Just now we covered. We remember the target element in for each loop should be iterable, right? Okay. The target element in for each loop. The target element in for each loop should be iterable. The target element in for each loop should be iterable. Now the third one, very important point. Can you tell iterator present in which package, Anna? Java.util package. It is present in Java.util package. But this one present in which package? Just now we covered Java.lang package, right? Java.lang package. Next, iterator contain how many methods? Iterator contain how many methods? 3 methods. Have you remembered? Has the next boss. Can you please check whether next element is there or not? If the next element is there, can you please find the next? And sir, this next element is not good. Can you please remove? Is nothing but in the collection framework I will explain. Just remember how many methods are there in the iterator. 3 methods are there. Okay. What is the first method? Has a next. Was next element is there or not? If the next element is there, can you please spell out what is the next element? Next element is there or not? If the next element is there, what is the next element? Next, can you please remove this current element because not good? Remove. Like total how many methods are there? 3 methods. Has next, remove is nothing but like 3 methods are there. I hope it's clear. But iterable contain how many methods? Iterable contain how many methods? 1 method. What is that method? You know, iterator method, right? That's all. If any person can ask what is the difference between iterator and iterable, maybe a chance to ask. It is related to collection framework, this one related to for each loop. Next, we can use iterator to retrieve elements of arrays, to retrieve elements of collection one by one. But what about this one? The target element in for each loop should be iterable object. Are you getting? Next, present in Java.util package, present in Java.lang package, iterator contain 3 methods. Has next, remove, but iterable contain only 1 method, iterator method. Is it clear for all of you? Right? Okay, at this point. Keep submitting differences between iterator and iterable. Take the table. Iterator, next iterable, Okay, first one. It is related to collection. It is related to collections. That here. It is related to collections. It is related to for each loop. It is related to for each loop. Next up, we can use to retrieve elements of collections. We can use to retrieve elements of collections one by one. We can use to retrieve elements of collections one by one. We can use to retrieve elements of collections one by one. Next, the target element in for each loop should be. Target element in for each loop should be iterable. Next, third point. Present in java.util package. Java.util package. Next here, present in java.util package, present in java.lang package. Next, it contains three methods. It contains three methods. Has a next remove. It contains three methods. Has a next remove. Contain three methods. Has a next remove. Next, it contains one method. One method. Can you spell out what is that method? It contains one method. What is that method? Iterator. It contains one method, iterator. That's all. Are you able to understand? Very important question for the interview room. What is the difference between iterable and iterator, right? Now any explanation is required. Okay, that's all. Now, so that's all. With this, for each loop related concepts also got completed, right?